Bones Brigade video, like the original one. I think I was 10 years old. At the time, definitely it was Tony Hawk. We went to an empty parking lot. They basically set up a jump ramp and a little rail slide, double-ended PVC, if you remember those, and 2x4s and just PVC pipes. And they're just like, fuck, go for it. And just skated for like half hour, 45 minutes or so. And then they all sort of deliberated in the corner and came back and they're like, yep, you're on the team. So that's how I got on. And then it was probably 3-4 months after that, I started filming for public domain. Completely different back then. You know, they were shooting real film, 8mm film, 16mm film. It's not like you could try a trick over and over and over and over. They're like, hey, do what you could do in the first couple tries and that's it. You know, Stacy had a real Hollywood background too, so what he'd do is at the end of the day, he'd be like, all right, give me your clothes. They'd keep our clothes so that when we went and filmed the very next day, we'd put the same clothes on and it looks like everything was done in a day. I was supposed to turn pro for Powell, talked to Stacy and he's like, you know what, I think we're both thinking the same thing. It might be best that you turned pro for another sponsor because it would be much more of a shock. You know, you've ridden for Powell for 5 years and turning pro, you know, for Powell would just be sort of expected. And then it just so happened that Eddie Radegui lived in the same neighborhood as Steve Size and we linked up in Huntington somewhere and, you know, I just took whatever opportunity I had at the time to turn pro because that's all I really wanted to do. Skated for them for maybe 6-8 months. There was a big shakeup at NHS with Santa Cruz with Alan Peterson and when they all left to go do Consolidated and there was some openings up there, so I drove up, talked to Gavin and got on Santa Cruz. And then from Santa Cruz it was Channel 1, XYZ Platinum, Platinum to A-Team, Darkstar Skateboards, and there I am. The big pants were big. They're like 36s cut off, and I'm like a size 30. And the wheels were 49s. 2 nose blunt slides are done, literally to the bearing pretty much. Found a wheel manufacturer in Garden Grove, at the time was Alaska. Bought like 400 sets of wheels and just started selling wheels. And from little 8x8 spot in my garage, Alaska sort of noticed the volume I was doing and they're like, hey, what are you doing to sell all these wheels? I was like, I don't know, I'm just talking to the people that I've always talked to and, you know, traveled with, and ended up licensing the trademark to Alaska in return for developing exclusive urethane. You know, just a shakeout happened over there to where I got the license back. Then I licensed it to World Industries at the time, just doing wheels. And Frank Nesman at the time was like, hey, why don't we just do a couple Darkstar graphics, we'll test them. If they do well, then we'll just do boards as well. And I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. Made a couple graphics, they sold really well, and we're like, all right, there's something there, and that's when we started doing Darkstar Wood at the same time. Darkstars are there, not in the forefront of your vision in your mind. You look in the sky and you know that they're there, but you can't really see them, right? And that's sort of what our brand started as. It's like, we're there, we're tiny, we started in the garage, and we liked the name Darkstar, it sounded good, so we're like, oh, it makes sense, let's just roll with it. We definitely started as like a medieval type feel and had a lot of like comic illustrations that we used from artists that actually, you know, did comic book work. Like Joe Weems was a prevalent artist that we used a lot in the beginning. And my brother, Matt, who's the creative director, I mean, he's really spearheaded that whole graphic direction from the start. Obviously, we've gotten away from that because that's not all we could do, you know. quite a few parts coming down the pipe, and that's pretty much what we're going to focus on as far as the riders go, is just getting those parts out there and wrapping them up. Something more structured rather than a vulcanized type Vans shoe was what I was going after, and the main intent was for me to build a shoe that could last and last and last and got better and better and better as you skated in it, you know? First couple days in that shoe was a nightmare for sure, but as the weeks rolled on, they got better and better, and then lasted like a couple months, you know? Like, I'm not skating every day, and at that time it was sort of unheard of, you know? Also, I wanted something that didn't slip off your foot, so that's why we integrated the internal sock liner. All the stars sort of aligned with that shoe. I had no idea it was gonna be a banger. I was just like, I love skating the shoe, I hope other people like it. It didn't take off right away, you know, it was like a good, probably year to 18 months before it just like, poof. You know, it was like, oh, it's doing okay, and I remember a couple conversations like, hey, should we move on to the next design? Should we like cancel it and get on to something new? And we're like, no, let's give it a season. And it just so happened that that season was like, holy shit, you know? And then it cranked for a good 3 years. You know, I think the whole just revival of heritage product in general, you know, the older boards coming back, the reissues and all that type of stuff is sort of like, let's reissue it and see what it does. I would have to give it to Louie, just because the tricks he does I can't do, you know, it's just a different type of skating, right? And that's what it boils down to. There's no way I'm doing a blunt finger flip. Ain't doing it.